Also, first thing we gotta do is get rid of these shamrocks, because nothing scares gays and black folks like Irish crap, you know what I mean?
Always Sunny Season 1 is dismissed by a fair amount of the fan base, but I think it comes out of the gate swinging. We open with the info the bar is making no money. They're handing it right back to one another, and 30 seconds in there's an argument and Mac gets security focused. They're all admitted to judging black people as alien. The gang gets racist. With bonus level, the gang gets homophobic. I like how they're warming to Terrell. He's a smooth, street-savvy character, played by Malcolm Barrett, who's appeared in Preacher and The Boys. The gang are hanging on his every word. Dennis is particularly smug in how privileged he is to be in this hitherto untold narrative. Some exclamations. He doesn't know where to look, though he, like Mac, is filing details away. Terrell is giving Dennis a lot of eye time and touch, which satiates Dennis's need for attention and praise, and is explored later. Introducing the coffee shop waitress. I miss this location.
Coffee?
Yeah.
Hitler?
No, I'm not Adolf Hitler.
Mac and Charlie at college. We don't know this from episode 1, but it's entirely out of their zone. In retrospect, it's got enormous potential. We'll get glimpses of the gang here and there at schools and universities. I'd love to see them let loose in graduate level education. Mac's attempt to ingratiate himself are met with an edge of uncomfortability, but Charlie, well, everyone loves Charlie. I like how Janelle is all over him, but he's so blasé and cool, actually to the point of rude. Charlie wants to recruit more guys, and it's as if this idiot savant of the gang has already figured out Terrell wants a gay bar. Mac's aggression rises, demanding Charlie produces his wallet for a picture of the waitress, so we get a hilarious rough and tumble scene. And this bodies a gang before they're in full stereotype or psychotype mode, and I don't see that as any problem. Their unruly behaviour brings out the amateurishness I love about this show, that it could be me and my friends acting out on the video camera. The gang are right from the outset living the punk dream. You can make this scene, and that's a virtue of episode 1, not a weakness. There's no fists, just a lot of slapping, groping and tumbling, as well as attention grabbing. It's a hoot when Mac threatens to tear up Charlie's photo of the waitress, and Charlie acquiescing with promises to call Janelle. Dee talks about her dreams, and Dennis doesn't want to hear about people's dreams.
I don't want to hear about your dreams, okay? I hate listening to people's dreams. It's like flipping through a stack of photographs. If I'm not in any of them and nobody's having sex, I don't care.
Terrell takes Dennis under his wing. Dennis can't finish explaining how he isn't gay, but he does like to learn he has the most beautiful eyes in the bar. Dee sexually assaults Terrell, which is kind of the opposite of her being the sweet straight one. She gets over Terrell instantly. Her mind goes straight to money and revenge. We get another nice scene at a coffee shop to take us out of the grime of Paddy's, and they're voting on whether Paddy's should remain a gay bar. Dee, of course, doesn't get a vote, and Mac argues she should, as she'll side with him. Charlie takes a delicious pause before asking Mac, although there are moments when he doesn't realise Terrell is gay and is all up for that lifestyle. It's only when it's explained to him that he has a problem. Very sharp scene with taking Janelle to the waitress's cafe. Mary Elizabeth Ellis immediately adds to the comedy. N.O. with a roll of the eyes and the jive humiliating Charlie. Mary Elizabeth Ellis immediately adds to the comedy. She's really one of the extended gang from her first 2 scenes. This episode has a fast-moving narrative, and the scene-to-scene cuts are hilarious. Another element in play here that will become a regular feature. People don't like Mac. Dennis embracing the performative of the full camp stereotype, graceful as a gazelle. What surprised me on rewatch is that Dee engineers a climax with the backstabbing that has become the gang's calling card. It's Dee who's set on screwing Dennis over, because she can, and that's reason enough. This flies so much in the face of the criticism of Sweet Dee as the bland peacekeeper. This bitch is out for revenge, and she's asking Mac to get Dennis in a place where he's not cognizant of his actions. My gods. I remember the final reveal feeling a bit cheap and corny, especially as the "how's that ass" line is visually and literally iconic enough for a reprise, but understudy it's clearer that Dennis has been taken advantage of twice. Dee is dark as hell. The denouement takes a while to play out. Rob Michael Henney's performance is great here, with Mac clutching personal defeat from the wings of victory. Every one of the gang has come out of this badly. I quite enjoy the 20-seconder of Dee explaining so casually to Mac that her attempt to destroy Dennis failed. It's a good afterthought, that dumb bird.
I hate dead baby fetuses. I hate them because they're dead and they shouldn't be.
Mac and Dennis are squabbling, then Charlie's with them squabbling and Dee's squabbling, and it's over polo shirts and shorts and short-sleeved shirts. And that typifies what I love about this show, this scrappiness, this underdog indie thing. There's lo-fi acoustics, empty sounds. This show looks cheap, bad lighting, and of course God breathing into your nostrils. Charlie wants an abortion. Spencer Daniels is wonderful as Tommy, just looking down all the time. Just absolutely terrible, terrible child. Then we get Charlie's father date, in which he brings him to the hospital, probably steered by Dennis. Why? We get more hints of Dennis and the sociopath they become. The crack horse skeezy sex worker. More brilliant casting in Sonia Jackson here. Dennis is demonstrating remarkable parenthood. Mac acting on his religion or just trying to prove a point? Is he a believer or does he just like winning things? The character at this stage in his formation is just as eerie as Dennis's would become. Tommy and Charlie's arguments are inspired because he's a real little shit, and it just keeps the story moving along at a real content breakneck speed. I could come down on Charlie and the waitress in the toy shop scene as being a little blasé, but it kind of works at this point. It's some good building for later on. D is all over the program con. Together they're the most functional coupling of the group, I think. Wasn't there an episode of Friends where the baby was used as currency, and this is Charlie's rather warped take on it? There's a scene here about the thinness of lines, which will recur throughout the show. Dennis, I don't really have any convictions. And again, Tommy is just insufferable. We get a conscientious woman appalled by Dennis. Dennis is a t-shirt policy man. Mac's date is straight up nuts. And the double standards, the real vileness of the gang is right here, fully formed. Dennis calls in to Mac that there's no talent here. It's just that he can't get any. The last 5 minutes are just big one rapid delivery of big joke minute after minute after minute. From Mac's sign to there's a guy on the fence. Dennis in the crossfire is just genius. Already this is a post-Seinfeld level of genius. Mac's girlfriend revealing that she's pregnant. It's a very fast moving story. And then into Tommy's drunkenness. You suck. Charlie trying to sober him up, which of course we all know as teenagers, and then of course enter the waitress, the perfect timed moment, followed by Tommy just puking. Charlie going to Tommy's father struck us up a bit, a little sort of ethical heart moment from Charlie. Why? I love how many twists are put into getting Charlie to run into the punching bag that is his life, into getting Dennis a schmuck on the fence, and Mac to show his double standards and also be thwarted by them. It's a tight 20 minutes. Betrayal, pit wallowing, cross and double cross. It really ramps up the tone, and character scumminess from episode 1 sharpens the delivery of their just desserts and is a memorable early entry.
That's Tammy, Trey's ex-girlfriend. This is classic Tammy.
We open with the bar a packed success. Unlike later, these are the origins of why the bar is always empty. It's a fairly straightforward setup. The title suggests an obvious premise, which is explored through unobvious means. This episode doesn't pick the low-hanging fruit, but reaches for senses of depravity and collegial family unit as the gang become entangled in the soap opera of school kids' lives. It lays out some distant trajectory for the softer family-like gang we'll see in Series 8 and onwards. The lads arguing about their own high school soap operas in teen years plays on the title brilliantly. Their pro-teen booze argument, literally, it wasn't that long ago, that draws upon audience empathy, but Mac's rationalisation for making Paddy's an underage bar is so overboard, it's twisted marvellous to watch. And then we get the first appearance of Trash D. Olsen's acting chops are on the move. Within minutes after being set up as the gang's moral centre, the first clues that D is a mess. Trey and D drinking in the car looks so uncomfortable. Back in the bar, nuanced memoir when Charlie asks, are they faking it? Well, of course we were. It's fairly realistic in picking up the kid's natural exuberance. Throughout, Charlie demonstrates one of his few virtues, that of youth leader. Dennison's jailbait opens the door to creepy Dennis. This is not the Dennis we'll see in later years, who wouldn't think 2 or 3 times. We get some foundations of lore as Dennis berates D and her high school scoliosis back brace, while Charlie and Mac revisit their glue-huffing youth. The house party, kind of a lame party, so Mac and Charlie will pick up the keg, heroes to the young. They're seduced with how cool you guys are. The guest cast are all brilliant. Robert Adamson's Trey, Jimmy Alexander as Tommy, and I love Katie Chon-Haas as Sarah and her whole chemistry with Charlie around the soap opera of Ben and Kevin and Rachel and Sarah. And Regina McGinley and Erin Hanna-Brie and Trey and Tommy, classic Tommy. Charlie's savant adaptness for memorising names, life events and diplomacy. Mac sucks at the Red Cup game, dominating the young people, wearing out his welcome, drawing contempt in a situation where they're open to liking him, and Mac and Charlie waking up on the floor. This episode is such universal reach. The gang reassemble for the first time at the three-quarter way point to counter the threat of being ratted out to the cops. It's wonderful how they're all pursuing their own narratives around one central story. And one by one their schemes fall apart. Mac is outed because he's useless and disliked, such a punching bag. Olsen's drunk acting is a delight. This D is pitiful, horrible and predatory. Revisiting prom night as a gang shot at redemption. Particularly Dennis, who cannot conceive of anything that involves a humiliating push from Grace. They turn on Dennis for his age range with Tommy until she looks incredible, and then they come back around to suit their own selfish desires and opinions. Tommy and Trey get back together and the gang get dumped, except for Charlie, who's a good high school pal, giving the girl away. Then he just chills and enjoys his dances like some dreamer. All in all, a pretty marvellous outing that demonstrates some range. These aren't just people who are shouting, bickering over each other, or sinking to depravity, well, except for Dee and Dennis, and people who are jealous and pitiful, like Mac. Now, these are people of nuance.
That's what I do. Shake it. Shake it. You want to see me shake it?
So we get the two home movies in one plot. The original joke of borrowing an item after an impactful revelation still lands and has a sufficient hook. Dennis takes the news in his stride, but there's pamphlets and talk and Dee and Mac in the car. It's a little awkward is how it's played, but the elephant in the room is the basketball. The gang return to the bar to talk about his cancer, presumably after the basketball game. Dennis claims to have held him for some time. Dee has psych insights. A plan is hatched to find Charlie a girl from the bar, but girls don't come to parties, except for Eric Sorodowski's cousin Carmen, leading to her altercation with Mac. Carmen seems to naturally soothe Mac's ego, so she must be bad news for the bar. The coffee shop. Mary Elizabeth Ellis's vocal acting is just deadpan dripping disinterest. Her charity awareness bracelet inspired some critical fashion commentary from Dee. Niggling scepticism, but valid. Dee is enlisted to Dennis's scheme if she gets to punch Mac in the face. Fairly reasonable. Another first with Artemis Dubois, hot, in your face, and about to be unemployed, which is another Charlie problem for Dee. This episode is thematically consistent. The other central joke, a trans woman played by a woman, also lands. I dread that some may think this is intended as Howell's comedy rather than Carlin Hicks' insightful comedy. Carmen is a marker that the creators get good trans representation. And now it's Mac rotating to that awkward spot. Dennis advocates for Charlie to the waitress and has his demon's ego blown, so the waitress is in on the plan. Mac uses a cancer magnet to woo Carmen. The waitress takes Charlie on a date, efficiently played out through montage. Artemis makes Dennis feel uncomfortable. He's not a fan of her body size or confident sexuality. Charlie returns in a great mood. Mac demonstrates his propensity for being unliked. Turns out Charlie has hatched a whole cancer plan for dates, which puts him on a Dennis level of creepiness. Seemed out of character for him, but it does strengthen the idea that the gang feed off each other's nefariousness to shape their own future evilness. I like when an adorable Charlie can sit well alongside his sheer terrifying aspect. Mac is on the run, arriving in a heated argument to gloat about giving the trans allies a slip. The repeated use of Carmen's descriptor as the tranny is something the writers have apologised for, but I have no issues with it because it's the gang's referral. Dennis and Mac think nothing of it because they are lowlifes. They don't care. It's a prism in which the slur is framed in context. There are a few circumstances in which slurs can legitimately be used, and all of those exist within a place to devalue them and ridicule those using them. Dennis and Mac seek justice from the waitress, their refusal to learn her name, another permutation of this. The pimp's plan does not go well. In summary, this episode doesn't have a lot of laughs. It does have two major new supporting characters, Artemis and Carmen, and a lot of textual character. It has a plot structure which I love, each character on a course that is labyrinthian. It fills 23 minutes sunny side up.
You know what? I got some Rice Krispie treats in the fridge. You want some more of those?
Soy milk and Mac's taste in women, lots of misogyny on show, form the lead into a break and entering in Paddy's. Or as Charlie puts it, a B&E, sounding like there's a bee in the bar. Let the yelling commence, an irrational agenda. Mac's idea. The gang get to challenge police investigation efficiency. The gang are split on the gun issue. It's amusing Charlie argues against guns, this far ahead of his robbing Paddy's. Colin is a character I'd love to see return. He's got an arch creep vibe that could have made one of the gang's more worthy nemesis. Michael Rosenbaum brings a full game. When Colin turns out to be pro-gun, Dee snakes to the other side of the debate. His championing of firearms is just as stupid as the gang's. We get the first reference to Gubaginos. Enter Shelley Desai. I love Huang. He screams cranky sleaze and is right up as dysfunctional as Charlie. The lighting brings out the age lines all around his face. Good grunting. Mac and Dennis can't resist a gun lure, and they've bought plenty of bullets. They're shooting a lock. It's a very subtle poke, yet at our pop cultural glorification of firearms. A field police lead launches CSI Paddy's, distracted by the missing gun, then Charlie with the fever. I recently encountered one of these crotch gun guys, a pathetic drunk with a Glock replica, and Charlie to Huang marks him out as a dominant asshole with ridiculous expression. One of the less remembered lol scenes in this classic is Mac and Dennis arguing over which of them is which of the Hardy Boys. Their theory that Colin is a robber is a worthy conspiracy in the Sunny Pantheon, and it's driven by their hetero egos and jealousy. Another Sunny stakeout with Mac Dennis trying entrapment. There's something definitely off about this guy. Shoot him in the face, Dee screams. Dennis nearly kills Charlie. I enjoyed his reaction to the danger of his car's upholstery. Charlie's plan was to make some money and claim on the insurance. It's a terrible plan. For one, I bet the bar's not insured, and Charlie has fingerprints all over the scene. Dee, sweet Dee, cares for Charlie's plight. In my head canon, she's been away from the guys for a few years prior to episode 1, and so is less exposed to their behavioural taints. The episode comes in under 21 minutes and every scene counts. It is a classic. The gang once again allow themselves to become the Ouroboros, tail-swallowing intergroup feuders, obsessed with their choices so that the prize is snatched away from under their noses. Less messy behaviour would have negated some of their problems. They are Mr. Chips to Scarface, and back round again, spiralling down the drain. Gun Fever is a great contender in championing Season 1 as a fine vintage. They're not as depraved as Colin, but they are terrible and dangerous. The message isn't quite as dismissive as its funnier sequel, and speaks to the popular majority of anti-gun resentment. In this, it builds the characters in many, many ways. Charlie's illiteracy of accepted social behaviour, Mac's illusion of alphaness, which is stronger here, and spurs on Dennis in his war with humanity, and Dee, of no fixed moral abode.
So we did. We went down there, and not only did we feed every last poor, miserable, precious soul, but we washed the feet of every man, woman, and child there. In the spirit of Christ.
Could Mac break Tom Brady's arm? Well, his attitude to first aid is what we expect. We're pretty much straight to story. The gang finds a dead guy. The gang are pretty upset about the inconvenience this has on them. Death, germs, gasoline and burning. For responsibility everybody looks to Charlie. Thus Charlie work is born, though there'll be less safety methods and a mask and a bin bag. Rebecca Keane, the bereaved, played by Lindsay McKeown. Charlie cutting the atmosphere with condolences is hilariously delivered. Rebecca didn't know her grandfather well, which is an opening for Dennis's cognitive machinations. The competitive streak begins as they're fighting over whether the bereaved is in their league. Dennis' sleaze and Mac's desperation. Ugh, he really is the worst. It's good to see that Frank will become a positive influence in Charlie's home hygiene. Dee has a problem with old people. Charlie enjoys his popcorn, but fails to barter utterly. visiting Pop Pop's nursing home, and Dee is disgusted enough to back out. She's as shallow. Charlie is in some sense a straight man in many early episodes. We've had it trailed that Dee is just going to leave Charlie there, so it's more delicious when she does just that. Charlie is mistaken as Dennis and goes through with the charade, not because he's selfish or shallow, which he is, but because he feels it's his responsibility to do so. He's a kid on a passive adventure of exploration. The anti-Semitism is dripping from Pop Pop, the disgust of which is diffused by Tom Bauer's mighty squeaky voice. It's a tricky part of this script, setting the grounds for a great payoff. Mac and Dennis are still trying to one-up one another for the attention of Rebecca. Love McElhenney's display of obsequiousness. Charlie's adventure, going back to see Pop Pop, he's sliding into that Dennis impersonation. The funeral begins with a quick squabble at the soup kitchen, inspiring Dennis's big lie. Frankie Rowell, uncredited, plays a minister, credited as Father McPoyle. Interesting. Mac is inevitably betrayed by Dennis, and a gift to begin all gifts. There's something immensely funny about Charlie in the SS uniform. Lionel Keene's eulogy, he had the heart of a lion in the spirit of Christ. Though Dennis is aware he's running a con, he's deluded enough to imagine he might be spearheading a help the homeless mission. Dennis Reynolds, exiled Nigerian prince, in your email. So Charlie and Mac try to sell their Nazi gold.
This, my friend, is an authentic Nazi officer's uniform, circa 1942. Notice the stitching and fine attention to detail?
And of course it goes as badly as any of the gang's other business meetings will. There's a really great video essay by Movie Sketch that posits the most important character in Sonny is a normative witness to their actions, whose world they barge into. Link in the description. Dee visits Pop Pop, but she's afraid of old people, as established by 10 seconds at the bus stop. He's not that happy to see her either. Pop Pop knows how tormented Dee is, wrinkled hands on young face, too good to resist. For Mac and Charlie, it's always fun to burn things. Dennis comes to gloat about the sex he's just had, and Mac is silenced until the reveal that Dennis's grandfather's a Nazi. And while the episode just sort of ends in Charlie's dive of an apartment, there's something very funny about this man and his hat and cereal. The Reynolds twins' sheer awfulness drives this episode, with Mac and Charlie moving to subvert them. Identity fraud is a means to an end for the guys, and the bigotries Dee holds by judging the elderly community. Help the aged. Solid casting, wacky scenarios, anarchic characters, and a lively range of locations.
If the McPoyles got blown and Charlie got blown, then why didn't I get blown?
School coach Christopher Murray has been reported for molestation. It's a basic cold open, relying on Dennis's shocking statement. Series 1, Episode 7, Charlie Got Molested. The psych students argue over the course with beer, chips and dips. Within seconds it's on the table that Charlie might have got blown, and Mac's resentment that the McPoyles might have gotten preferential blowing. He was a good looking lad. The physical ugliness of the McPoyles is there from the outset, as they'll continue, reaching through the screen with a tangible creepy prickliness. Ryan and Liam are flown in class action suit, and it was all Charlie's fault. Note how the McPoyles live next door to the butcher's and opposite a deli. The stuffed animals on the table is another weird touch, and Ryan's cocked briefs and sloping belly hanging out there. I'm not sure what Ryan's huffing, but it harks back to a familial glue huffing Mac and Charlie enjoyed a few episodes before. Amusing vegetables. Dee confesses to an affair with the teacher. I'd hate to have taught the gang. Mac entraps Coach Murray with the hope of attentive favours, and it's a pretty funny scene. Potential gif here in Mac's coach face. Dennis and Dee are caught up in trying to crack Charlie. Heads turn. Mac enters the bar, shouting, excited about his reading on paedophilia. We get the return of Lynn Marie Stewart as Bonnie Kelly, all lovely, gives a great go around here as mother of the little gingerbread man. And intervention. Hello there, Uncle Jack. Liam lingers on Dennis. The intervention is the episode scene stealer, iconic even all these years on. It's expertly scored, Jack's oral directions, just well timed. The slow finger going down on the bum of the plastic doll. I think if I was an academic student of horror films, my brain would be pounding with loud alerts and alarms. The camera angles, the very specific arrangement of actors look certain to be half a dozen references to genre flicks. 25 million is a lot of clams. Not for the McPoyles. Mac's a little prick who's going to hell. This isn't a bad episode, 19 minutes runtime. Mac's seduction of Coach Murray and the intervention of Charlie undoubtedly give us two iconic scenes. On 20th viewing they don't hold up as such a barrel of laughs, but I remember enjoying Dee and Dennis's battle of egos this time around as well, though they weren't ones I'd remembered going in. Mac's yearning to have been abused was funnier, and these are entirely fitting with what we'll go on to learn about these characters. For agenda setting, I rank this high. Another show might tell us stories a road of misunderstandings, or have one outlier misbehave in a momentary fit of revenge. It's efficient too, as we learn of the McPoyle's scheme a few minutes in, and why Charlie has been framed in a certain way. So ends Series 1. It's a scrappy underdog series full of grimy characters and absurdist language and scenarios. In some ways it reminds me of Kevin Smith's Clerks. Here Sonny best embodies the message that if we could get together a bunch of creative friends and took the time, we could put our passion into making entertainment just like this. It's punk rock DIY, get up and go, and it continues to inspire to this day. My new novel, Coastlines After Dark, is out now. Go and give it a whirl from your suppliers. While this channel is small enough, I have to thank all my Patreon patrons. Sonia Andree, Richard Huang, Chell, Andrew Bolster, Donal Fallon, Andree Gallagher, Amanda Rodriguez, John Robbins, Ian Lawther, who is also helping with the tech, Alan Rowell, Claire Dixon, Ljerka Jemric, Dave Cromie, benchilada Stone, and particularly Arsalan Haider Ali, the Lightbinder, and Kondratiev, Director of Makerspace Farset Labs. You can add your name to that list for £1 per month. That gets you electronic access to all my books, comics, poetry, and a Christmas card while stocks last. Also 9 advanced looks at videos per month. If I can raise another couple of hundred, I can open up annual subscriptions. This has been a joy to make. And PLCSS, please like, comment, share, and subscribe.
Stop trying to coin the phrase
PLCSS. See y'all soon.